making some progress with the setup and configuration of a lot of the sensors and making some progress. So far we have our right sensor calibrated. I have my 6-bar map sensor calibrated, and I have my high pressure fill rail sensor calibrated for the direct injection. So we're getting there, slowly getting there. Of course, the injectors and all of that stuff is good. This would be for our stage injectors. These other 6 right here, our port fill injectors. So the direct injectors are already good. Port fill injectors, I still need to test those out. I'm just going through checking the pinouts. That's why I have my flute with the probes in here. And I've been testing a lot of the pinouts just to confirm all of my plus and minus grounds for certain sensors are on the A channel matching accordingly, and some of the other sensors are on the B channel, so I don't want any crossover or mix up with the voltage outputs with the configuration of the sensors and supplying the proper voltage. So we're making some progress, happy to say that. Unfortunately, over the weekend I got a part that is useless for our setup, but next step, I definitely want to configure and test out the regulator valve. I'm pretty happy that these regulator valves unscrew from the factory direct injection pumps. In a lot of applications, these do not screw out at all. They're actually built into the fill pump, and if these actually fail, you would have to replace the whole unit. But that is one good thing about these fill pumps also. So we've gone through, as I stated, rice have done. The 6-bar, that's good to go. I do have to set up the sensor for our fill pressure and fill temperature. Already started somewhere over in the spaghetti, right here. This will be the connection. That's why I have 4 wires, plus, minus, as well as fill temperature and fill pressure. So that is the setup for this sensor also that's in our second fill rail. So that is something I definitely want to get set up soon. And I was going through some of the reconfiguration of the Motec and checking the pinouts. So we're making some progress. I actually have it set up now for these wires is going to be for our regulator valve. These pinouts, we need to test that. So I'm going to try to incorporate using the solid state nitrous relay with that and test that out. So hopefully we'll get to that soon. And another thing that we have pretty much set up also that is pretty good is a flex fill sensor. That's coming in the future. We'll have that set up. We already have the pinouts and everything calibrated for that. And also we have our turbocharger speed sensors. So we're going to definitely install a speed sensor in the turbocharger as well. And that's coming in the future also. Been tedious going through all of this spaghetti and just double checking and confirming everything, but we are getting there slowly but surely. I'm back on my portable test bench, researching and strategizing how to get all of these sensors and components working together. So I just have a new package that finally arrived. I just had to do a quick order, and hopefully this is the sensor that I was originally looking for and research to assist me with possibly using my fill pump cam lobe to monitor the location of my fill pump. And yes, this is it. So bingo. This one actually came with a cable and the sensor. And this is a little more like it. There we go. That's a lot smaller than the sensor that I received last week. And this is more like it. That's about the diameter of a pencil. And that's what I was looking for. So this is small enough to read my cam lobes, and hopefully we'll send information back to the Motec unit, which it will. It's just setting everything up properly, configuring it, and getting this information to work together. So that's a good point right there. What I'm doing today is I'm setting up amongst the spaghetti my fuel pressure regulator. I went ahead and put a 10 amp fuse in it just for safety protection, but I want to test this. I want to research on my fill maps to see if I have a forward or a feed forward map, or I have to develop one so that way we can utilize that sensor and develop a table to make this work in sync. Okay, we have all the latest bells and whistles and performed our latest update for firmware for the M1 Motec. So we definitely have a nice outlook on the screen configuration. I'm in the process of developing a direct injection worksheet for the 3.6 liter, and we're making some progress of setting it up. I'm using the Audi V10 base map for migrating some of the data over so that way it can help us build a table. But we're making some pretty good progress. We do have a worksheet developed, and I'll show you guys that in a few. I'm comparing the pump setup versus the Audi V10 base map, and this is tremendously helpful because, of course, the Volkswagen Audi group have so many parts that are familiar and similar as far as the like vacuum pumps, coolant pumps, different things like that. Whereas on the GM side, our base map was based off of a GM 3.6 liter. And you can see the big differences where we're missing a lot of critical and crucial data that'll help us tune this VR6. While reviewing and comparing the files of the Audi R8 V10, I like the fact that they have individual lambda probes set up for each cylinder. So you can see that they had all 10 cylinders activated. If this was a V12, of course, 11 and 12 was already not in use. I'm going to go ahead and disable another 4 of these because we do not have a V10, and I'll just keep 6 of these active in preparation for when we do our individual cylinder tuning. I did set up our exhaust manifold to do some individual tuning and measurements just as a baseline. Even though we don't have a header style manifold, we just welded some O2 bungs in the factory exhaust manifold just as a baseline and just to do some testing, and we'll get a chance to see how long this manifold will last, if it'll hold up to some of the heat of that turbo. But this gives us a good start. 7D12 has been deactivated, and of course this 12-cylinder version would have been for a Lambo, but this particular calibration file, as I stated, was for Audi R8. So we have 6 active lambda inputs for our CAN bus setup, and we are ready to go as far as that. As I'm going through the initial setup, I'm slowly getting rid of a lot of these error messages that's at the bottom of the screen. We started off with probably about 50 plus errors, and now we're down to 22. So I deactivated all 6 of the Landom and just pretty much left bank 1 and bank 2 up. If I pull up my list, I'm dropping that list of faults down. But of course, there's a lot of things we don't have connected as far as our coolant temperature sensors you see on here, different things. I do not have the oil pressure sensor hooked up. In fact, we don't even have the lambda sensors hooked up yet. So we did purchase the dual lambda for bank 1 and bank 2, and that's pretty much what we'll start off with. That'll give us a chance to kind of bounce around if I want to put a probe in cylinder 1 and cylinder 2, for example, bank 1 and bank 2. That way I can kind of get an idea what's coming out, and my air-fuel mixture was coming out those sensors, and we'll bounce around in the sensors so we can get just a basic startup and pretty much individual tuning for starting off. But technically we're going to need 2 more of these to have all 6 cylinders being measured. And of course, the best thing would be to switch over to a header style manifold and have those sensors located a little further down into the exhaust stream so we can have better accuracy. But that's coming at a future date. In the meantime, this is just starting from scratch, get it up and running, get it tuned, try to get some numbers put on the board, and see how far this thing will take us. So I have a direct injection pump worksheet put together in our initial setup workbook, and it turned out pretty good. I'm happy with at least having something basic to start off with. This is far better than what originally came with the GM package, which is totally different than our Volkswagen Audi group setup. But at least this has a speed, RPM. It can measure the fill pressure and also the volume per cycle. There's a few other things I definitely want to add in here also. Definitely want to get the channels and things configured a little bit better. But we're getting there. It's coming together. Not bad for a basic startup. And if I go back to the primary page, I want to definitely add a few more channels in here. I can monitor RPM, temperature. I'm going to change this from coolant temperature to field temperature, so that way we can at least see what the field temperature is. So putting it together, slowly but surely getting there. This is definitely very tedious. Don't know if anyone of the Volkswagen Audi group partners that have done this on the 6-cylinder versions yet, but it's a task. Most people they deviate away from messing with the direct injection pump. Of course, when I finally get to the port injection, that part is far easier, and I mean tremendously easier, getting that configured and set up compared to this. In fact, I was still tempted to at least get the car started up off the port injectors first and get that just a basic idle tune, and then switch back over to the direct injection pump. But either way, we're going to get it running off of either or and both. But we're going to continue to proceed forward, but making baby steps, but still making steps forward. So it's come together, looking good, far better than what I had before.